What's up, guys? Welcome to Trinbago Vibes. If you do, this is your first time here, welcome. I am Retrieve. So, right now we are currently on lockdown in Trinidad Tobago. This episode, we call this the home quarantine edition of Trinbago Vibes. And today, we are tackling this book. So, what does the Millennial Mind has to do with Trinbago Vibes? Stick around and find out. What's up, my Trinbago peeps? Happy Independence! Today we celebrate 58 years of independence right here in Trinidad and Tobago. So today I say, you know what? I just want to highlight one of our local talents. And let me introduce you to Daniel M. Francis, the author. Not sure if you'll see this. Yeah, the author of The Millennial Mind and a fellow Trinidadian. So I've had the pleasure of reading this book, which is phenomenal. And now let's jump into this. Daniel M. Francis, you can just tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came about this book.
So, my name is Daniel Francis. I'm a personal development coach. Actually, I'm an entrepreneur, and underneath that umbrella is a few things. So, coach, author, event planner, even a host of a show. How I came about with this book was that my first 3 years of doing the personal development coaching, keep meeting with young people over and over, and I started to see themes of similar challenges. The core issues would always be the same. The behaviors that they would kind of portray because of those core issues would always be a little bit different. But I found that if it wasn't addressed, it would just cause so many negative feelings, whether they feel stuck, they're not achieving their goals, they feel like they have no direction or purpose. And one day I was just sitting down and I said, what's the best way that I can reach more people? Because I know when I sit one-on-one with a client, I can help them switch. And I said, the idea for a book came. Of course, I had no idea how to write a book. I was not an author before then. I barely could do well in English when I was in college and all these different things. But I said, how hard could it be? And that more or less started the journey of writing a book. Lucky for me, I do what I do. So it's easy for me to, set goals, set timelines, that have logical steps that get me from point A to point B. So that's what I did. I read books in it, I watched videos, I met with experts, I met with people who wrote books. And based on that knowledge, I set a plan in motion. I would have never imagined that it would have blown up as big as it did, but I'm thankful for that. I'm still going on with this journey. It's really just begun.
Yeah, because I see you've been on the papers, you've been in other interviews. We were supposed to do this a while back. So let me just give you some backstory now. So basically, I was on Instagram the other day, right? And I see this ad saying, I'm a 28-year-old. And I was like, what? And then I see the Millennial Mind. Like, what 28-year-old know about Millennial Mind and success and these things now? But at the same time, I was intrigued. And I was like, you know what? This is a local person I have to support. So I went out and got a copy of the book. And then on reading it now, I realized you have to take some time after each chapter and examine everything, which I love about it. And it's something similar to like books I read by Mark Manson and Malcolm Gladwell. Any of those ever ring a bell? Or?
Yeah, I've read Malcolm's book before. Interestingly enough, I think things kind of fell in line really perfectly when I read the book, because last year when I wrote it, I was in this binge of I want to try to read one self-help book a week.
Yeah.
Right? So by the time I got to September when I wrote the book, I had read a whole set of books. I read books on Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn. I'm doing even Gary Vee, and I'm just getting a sense for the type of knowledge that was helpful to me and what I use to help people. And it's like, I need to find a way to package this in a way that millennials will read. Because if you notice with the book, it's not very long. The chapters, they're very clear. They get straight to the point. There's no meandering around a long story or 3 stories to get to one point. No, it's like, this is what it is. This is how it's relatable to you. It's easy to read. And then one thing I really hated about certain books is that, I feel so motivated after I read it. I'm like, I'm very excited to get things done. But it's never really fully applicable to me because it's a book. It doesn't necessarily have to do that. But I said, this book needs to be practical for persons who read it, which is why each chapter ends with an exercise, because it's one thing to be motivated, but it's another thing to take that motivation and then apply it to your life so that you can actually see some change, because that was the major goal I wanted. I wanted people to be changed from reading it and be in a better position after than they were prior to reading the book.
Correct. And that's actually one thing I loved about the book as well. Like how straight to the point you were, like you should give a little story, a little background, whether your life experience or someone's life experience, and then you jump into the point. And then at the end of each chapter is these affirmations and these exercises that it had me, like some of the exercises you were talking about is something I was already practicing, and I didn't realize I was practicing. But yeah, and one important factor that most people fail to realize is, and it stated in the book, not to spoil the book because I really love the book, is write it down. I cannot stress enough, like I have a few journals like this, that any ideas I have or anything, I just keep writing it down, because I realize the one lie we tell ourselves is that we will remember.
Oh Jesus, that is the biggest one. I mean, I hear it all. I say, don't need to write it down because I remember everything is in my head. And I just think to myself, every time you say that and you don't write down your goals, you're basically just saying, it's like, I use the example in the book, it's like you're running a race, but you're being held back by a parachute, because we have so many thoughts in our mind, the things that we have to do daily, the goals that we have this week, next month, next year. If you don't find a way to separate those and actually put it on the paper, it's just easy to forget. It's easy to just get muddled by what's in front of you, and then you end up being busy. You're busy being busy, but you're not necessarily being productive. You're not necessarily moving towards your actual goals. You're just active, and there's a clear differentiation between those two things.
That's true. Also mentioned in the book that there's a power in writing these things down as well. Because I will take notes, I will keep notes on my phone and whatnot, and it's be there. But somehow, like visually seeing it and visually writing it down is like a whole different concept. I don't know if it's because of my age, because in the classes of millennials that you define, I've more fallen into the late millennial stages rather than like the middle. Yeah. So, but there's also a power I find in just having that thing written down rather than like say type it up on a note or whatnot.
Definitely. I mean, and this is like a battle I have with some clients. Sometimes when I tell them don't type it on their laptop or don't put it on their phone, I want them to physically sit down and write it down. They say, oh, I hate to write, I don't want to do that. And I say, when you write it down, the mere fact that it actually takes you longer to do, it becomes more of a reflective type of exercise. So when you start writing, it's taking longer, you're actually putting more thought into what you're doing, which at the end of the day can only aid you. We are in the 21st century where everything is just instant. Everything is fast. Sometimes we miss the fact that slowing things down can actually help speed things up. They talk about put 10 minutes into planning, you save yourself an hour of efficiency. That's hard to see when all you can see is all the different things you have going and how much work you need to do. Yeah. But you write those things down, you separate them, and then you can just see, okay, this is linear, this then, as opposed to whatever jumps out into your mind, you just go do that immediately. And it sounds so simple and like it doesn't really affect you much, but boy, it has a huge impact, because we forget that life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not about what you do in bulk now, it's about what you consistently do over time that will get you where you need to go.
And that's true. That's true. And like you say, once you write these down and you're able to differentiate the different types of goals that you have, then you can put things in place to achieve it. And I love how you state in the book that you have to be specific with your goals as well, because, and I'm quoting you here, ambiguity is a killer of dreams. I really love that line. It is true. Like I will have an idea and it'll just be like an idea, but I don't put things down, and then somebody will come and ask, hey, so what about the idea that you had so long ago? Like, oh shit, I forget about that. And that also leads to like procrastination, a lot of different things.
I hate I'm talking to people about their goals and they all sound so amazing and so grand. But then when I ask simple questions, the goals are derailed because they really haven't gotten specific about it. For example, you want to get all the time, I want to be financially free. I say, great. right? But the goal as is very flawed because we have no idea what you're supposed to be doing, how much money
Yeah.
you're supposed to be saving, by when. So if you don't make it specific with like timelines, like amounts, measurable amounts, then you're not gonna find yourself moving in a particular direction. Because even with me with the book, if I didn't set timelines, listen, this book could have been in my hard drive on my laptop for years, but I was very specific about, all right, if I start writing in September, I need to be finished this manuscript by October. If I'm finished, when I finish the manuscript in October, the editing needs to be done by February. The book needs to launch April the 15th. The launch event needs to be April the 30th. And those deadlines kept me in check. Even simple steps as like, how much books I want to sell in a year. If I don't set those targets, I would just kind of meander around. I'll do things half.
Yeah.
Is those targets, those measurable goals, those being specific, it makes a difference because it now tells your brain exactly what you need to do as opposed to you're guessing as you go along.
Correct, because you can't improve what you don't measure, right? So, and I love the example, our next example used in the book, like people underestimate how small differences can have a huge impact. And I love the mathematical equation that you give in the book. I was like, I saw that and I laughed. I was like, that was brilliant, I have to admit. It's a equation.
All the stuff I write is like I've actually experienced it, so it's not as though I'm making it up. Because, for instance, I hate it. I really hated to read. I was never a big reader because I did science subjects in school, so it's always big textbooks I go through, and reading in my spare time was never something that I would ever want to do. But then you become an adult and you're like, you have to read. You have to intake information that helps you. So I did something simple. I said, I'm going to read 10 minutes a day. And it seemed so silly at first because I thought to myself, 10 minutes not going to do anything. 10 minutes a day, a month and a half, 2 months, reading a whole book. Now, this is a book I would have never read because I was reading 0 minutes a day. 10 minutes made all that difference. So when people come and tell me things like, I don't have time, and I just laugh because we have time to be on social media. We have time to spend hours on our phone. We have time spending meaningless conversations, but we don't have time to better ourselves. We don't have time for our health. We don't have time to have a conversation with our family. These are the things that actually build us up. But we have time for everything that's shiny, that catches our eye, that we go towards. And we only really realize how much we pay the price when it's later in life. And we start to feel regret because we haven't achieved this or we haven't achieved that, or we've had this goal that's been shelved forever that we just kept dreaming about but never actually got it done. And that's the power of just small little steps being consistent over time.
That's correct. Because I remember I always had a professor and he used to say, those who say they have no time simply cannot manage time.
Yeah.
And that's the next thing, like in the book, I like how you eventually progress to, hey, there's step by steps. I know that for people who read it, who still might be lost on how to start this. And in the book, you actually have like, hey, don't worry, these are the certain steps you may take to start this journey. And then all that you do is start the first step, write things down, write down your goals, be specific.
Yeah. And I think that's important for people to see, because even when I was going through my lost period, I noticed that there were a lot of people who were in similar situations as me. And when I found the answer, it wasn't something that was super difficult. It was something very simple. It started with me saying, well, what do I actually want from life? What do I think my purpose is? Answering these questions, then progress to the next thing. I was like, okay, if I know my purpose, what are my goals? If I know my goals, how do I manage my time? If I not manage my time, how big do I want to go? And it's not big changes. It's very, very tiny changes that you just add over time. But they make the biggest difference, because one thing I realized about, that transition between school and adult and having responsibilities and things, I think 90% of it is a mental game. It's more you fighting yourself, you telling yourself you're supposed to have certain things, you holding on to these anchors that might necessarily be more negative and holding you back than it is about like what's happening around you, the external world. Because if you can't control that internal environment, you're going to be at a loss when it comes to what's happening externally.
We are our best friend and we are also our worst enemy.
Yep.
Very simply. So I can understand the struggle of fighting with those kind of things. You know, one problem, if I have to say, if I have in this book, and this is me just nitpicking here.
Bring thing. I love the nitpicks.
No, it is where you define late millennials as is like
why,
right? And I know you're just generalizing, and this is a few, but I mean, I fall into the late millennials, and I have friends who a few years older, a few years younger, still there. And what you have been describing as the middle millennials, I think, that's something like me and the people I know. So I think that is the only nitty-picky part I have in the book, is that to me, I don't see much of a difference between the middle and the late, at least in my experience.
No, the thing is, it is a generalization. I like to work with generalizations because I can't create a scenario that's perfect for everyone. That's impossible.
Correct.
Right? It's easier to work with that particular one because when you look at that middle age group, they tend to be, especially when it comes to millennials, the age group that's not necessarily married, not necessarily looking for land yet. They might still be figuring things out. When you're in the late phase, you're more likely probably got married, start having kids, you're working your home. Your goals kind of change. Right. But again, just because you're at a particular age doesn't mean that you don't have particular challenges. It's not one broad stroke that fits everybody. Everybody's different. Correct. You know, I had a girl call me, she's like, I fall into the early millennial, but I feel like a late millennial. You know, you say that late millennial struggle with, I struggle with. I said, well, you know, at the end of the day, it's for you to now take the words and make it practical to you. Because again, I cannot write it in a way that will speak directly to every single person, but I can help guide you on the journey so that when you see something, you can draw the parallel between what you're reading and your life and then make it work for you.
Correct. Well, I think this was, first I have to give thanks to you for the ability to just step out of this box and write this book, because it's pretty good to see a fellow Trinbagonian write something as good as this. And I mean, like, I'm one of those, I've been reading since I'm small, because that's how my parents pushed me around. So, up to the point where, even in secondary school, where we had to read textbook, I have partners who would say, you just read for leisure, for fun? What is that? You know, but it's just something I enjoy doing. So when I say I enjoy this book, I enjoy the book. I just want to thank you for taking the time of your day to join me in this journey, and I look forward to, when you get bigger, to be the quintessential leader of the millennial self-development experts in the world, I think.
I'm working on it. It's coming. I'm working
on it. Yeah, you'll definitely head in there, man. You'll definitely head in there.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Until the next one. The Millennial Mind, folks. You should get a copy. I'll leave links in the description below for you to, if you want to get a copy of this, to purchase it on Amazon or to buy locally if you are here. A lot of people down here who will benefit from reading this book. So I suggest you get a copy of this book. And speaking of getting a copy, you know what? I'm going to give away a copy on this channel. So just leave some comments below and I'll randomly pick someone and send it to you all. It won't matter where you are. Just leave some comments below, and it's a good read. It's a good read. All right, so like, comment, definitely share, because everyone should know about this book. I would like to leave you with a quote from the Millennial Mind. The person you are at the beginning will not be the person you are when you are successful. You will grow through your experience, your knowledge, failures, and success. Remember that, folks. Until the next one. Be safe, wear your mask where required, because we're still in the COVID era. Hence, home edition Trinbago Vibes. Stay safe. I'm on. Later. Some people would see this virus as the downfall in society, but at the end of the day, you have to adapt, or you'll be left behind.
Yeah, I mean, even yesterday when I was doing deliveries, I kind of thought back to, like, I had a lot of recurring business that was supposed to happen this year that didn't happen because I couldn't have in person. Because usually in the summer I do a lot of group seminars for corporations.
Yeah,
but not happening. But I was just really thankful. I was like, yo, I came out with this book. This book saved me real plenty. And even when the book was out, I still had to be really adaptable with how I got it out there because I couldn't go to bookstores, you know, had to be like food delivery and all these things. And it just showed me that, COVID is just driving innovation. Like everybody's trying to find their way. And I think that once COVID is done, you're just going to see these new businesses come up. And when you start working through this tough period, when things are nice again, you will just...
By then, I think you'll be ahead of the game.
Yeah, so
and I'm glad your book is on Amazon too, Horse. It's like, finally. So
yeah,
anybody who want to get it, they can always order a copy.
And it's crazy. I mean, they talk about pushing Amazon sales and all these things, but there's like so much that could be done, like just right here and in the Caribbean. Like I like the idea that it's on Amazon, people could see it and buy it, and I know I can push more internationally, but there's like so much going on here that we overlooking. Like I'm pretty booking Barbados and Jamaica and all these places, and sometimes we always want to go international and we're always thinking about global, and that's great too, but we have so much here. We have so much here.
I agree with that. Start locally and
build out,
and then you can jump to the
because I started educating authors and all of them they have this whimsical idea of it, and I'm just thinking to myself, you had to start with the people closest to you who go and buy a book, your friends, your family.
Correct.
And builds up from there. If you just keep thinking global, nobody will know anything about it to say they're just going to see a book and buy it,
Well, that's true.
And I really just want to spread more information about it because there's like you said, there's so much talent here, and I think people just need to know that there's a direction that they can point it, and they can utilize their actual talent to do something great.
Yeah, it does.
Want to keep pushing people to do. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for having me again.
You're welcome, man. And thanks for doing this interview. This is the first one right here on Trinbago Vibes. So guys, the Millennial Mind, make sure and get your copy. Happy Independence, stay safe, and just remember, together we aspire, together we achieve.